On today we're going to talk about the earnings next week. It's a big week, and honestly, I think it's probably the biggest week in a long time for me. Anyway, I have one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10 companies reporting earnings next week. I mean, it's definitely, and a lot of these companies are high flyers. I recommended. I could leave a link. Probably try to all of them. Try to include all of them. Down there. I mean, there's a lot of them. But anyway, I'm going to just jump right into it. I don't want to make this video too long for you guys. Make sure to like and subscribe and share it, and so you stay updated on this stuff and all this. But anyway, we're just kicking it off. Zscaler reports on Tuesday. A lot of these reports on Tuesday after hours. Zscaler is one of the cybersecurity stock. Tuesday is actually probably the biggest day of the week, really, because that's when the Fed starts. Too, but more on that later. The Zinclair or Zscaler, but basically, I recommend that stock, and it's been an explosive year for it. I mean that stock just went up crazy amounts. I mean, it's basically, I could leave a link talking more about it. I made like a 20-minute video, 10-minute video explaining it. And this stock has just ran up a lot. I'm really looking at the growth, accelerating growth, hopefully. But I believe this stock could get a hit if it doesn't report. I believe, make sure you subscribe so you get updates on it and everything like that. I always like to keep you guys updated on all these stocks I recommended. The next company is MasterCard, reports in the morning on Tuesday. Once again, MasterCard, I think, have a great, that's basically a consumer confidence type stock. So it's obviously, if you have consumer confidence, you're going to have a good report on that. But I believe, MasterCard's ran up so much, I think almost 50% this year from its all-time low way back in December or wherever. So essentially, this stock's ran up a lot. I recommended it then, and I still recommend it, but I think it might have a pullback just because I feel like all these stocks get a pullback. I mean, all these these fintech companies, they always put great earnings and then they pull back. So essentially, that's why I'm looking through there. Another one is Apple, of course. I always been a big fan of Apple stock and Apple company and Apple products. I believe, it's a new age for Apple, and I can leave a link on why I think that. Well, all the services it's coming out, because I believe the old days are behind Apple of selling phones, and that's their core business. I believe it's all about the service and what them phones can do. Because there's really no more innovation. Well, per se in a phone that you can really do. It's just going to be faster, like 5G. There will be a lot more devices, and it's going to be 5G is going to be big, and maybe that can boost Apple. Maybe they could finally say, hey, the decline in phone sales are up, going to be behind us, and they're going to boost it. So I think that's why I hold on Apple. It's almost like a 5G play too. So essentially, that's why I believe Apple. Essentially, I believe Apple can rise higher. That's why I own it, of course. Plays a good dividend. It's really, really good ran company too. So essentially, it's pretty safe too. So essentially, that's why I like Apple going forward. They report, I believe they could take a hit, honestly, because all these stocks have ran up so much, except some of them. But I believe that's just kind of how it is with them. But then the other one is Zandex. Basically, what that does is like a customer service. It actually got hit last quarter, a little bit. Had a little more. It's unprofitable, and we posted some more unprofitability and really kind of more losses than expected. So essentially the stock got hit a little bit, but honestly it recovered all of them gains in big. I believe all these stocks, unless something dramatic happens to them, I believe every single one's a buy. Um, Maybe not before it, but definitely after. I always wait for I don't really like buying before. Some of these stocks, especially when they ran up a lot. And basically, and that finishes up Tuesday. So basically, them free MasterCard, Zandex, and Apple. And we also have a Fed meeting on then. And I can leave a link on the description talking more about the Fed and what they could do. The market's priced in a 100% interest rate cut, which I think it's crazy. 100%. I don't think anything's ever 100%. So, and we actually get job numbers this week. next week out coming out too. So essentially, it's a big week. Like I said, it's probably one of the biggest weeks I've seen in a while. All these just kind of get crammed in all in 1 week. So it's going to be information overload next week. But I try the best to try to talk about. You can leave a comment what you want to hear about next week, what you want to focus on, and what you're focusing on at all these. So essentially, moving on. There's Twilio. Next day is Wednesday. So next this coming up Wednesday, Twilio reports. I mean, I think Twilio is a great company, but I believe it's almost one of these companies. It can't keep growing. I think it was 81% revenue growth. I mean, when is that going to stop? Essentially, when will that slow down? And honestly, I believe it can keep growing. And I believe Twilio is almost a $30 billion company. And that's almost 30% gain from where it's at. So essentially, I would, or so 31, 33, around there percent gain from where it's at. I'm not saying they could jump there. I believe it could take a hit because it's sitting at an all-time high. When every single time you have a stock hitting an all-time high right before reports earnings, it better blow it away. Because if it doesn't, it's gonna get hit. And a lot of these growth stocks, when they get hit kind of hard. I mean, it can honestly be a 10, almost a 20% drop just because people get scared, people sell, and that's really just how it works. And it might be a great quarter, but I mean, if these companies don't come out and blow it away. That's why I really never buy any of these companies heading into earnings, especially the ones that's ran up a lot, especially a lot of these growth companies. Because I mean, let's say if a customer, and a lot of thing is, if Twilio or any of these companies, Twilio, Zandex, or Zscaler, if anything happens, like let's say a customer go leave them, these stocks can get hit heavily. So essentially, that's what actually happened to Twilio. I think Uber left them. That was way before they just started and they shot up. I think it was like 20 to all the way up to 60. Then Uber left them and they got hammered. And then it actually almost took a year for it to recover. But good businesses usually cover. And the other thing, I'm not going to talk too much about it. But the next company is EA. EA reports. It's a company I liked. I always liked. It was I call the big free in gaming is Take-Two, Activision, and EA is one of them. So essentially, I believe and it's for the whole industry's down. Take-Two actually was beat down, then it came back from where it are. But honestly, all of them are beat down, and they all just been flat this year. So it might be a flat year for them. I believe EA, especially Activision, is actually probably the best out of them. But EA is right behind them. They have a lot of things going for them. They have a lot of products, that they can just keep making. You know what I mean? Pumping them out. And Apex Legends was one of them. A lot of people liking that game. So essentially, I believe it's a hit-driven business. It's all about who has the best video game and the best thing. It's like a movie. It's like the movie industry. You know what I mean? It can have up and downs, up and downs. So essentially, that's kind of how it is for EA. So essentially, I believe EA can. I really look for the guidance. I mean, what kind of games they're coming out, and this year, and it's almost been a kind of a dry year for video games, but I still recommend it because I always think long term, and actually, it's been a long term winner if you hold it for the last 3 years. So essentially, EA and all them. But I always like to hear from them anyway because I still hold on to the shares. I haven't sold them. But anyway, the next one on Thursday is also a big day. For that is you have Shopify reports in the morning. Shopify is I could recommend. I've recommended it a lot on this channel, and I could leave a link from all them. And it was e-commerce. I think it was actually my free stocks in May, which I'm actually reviewing this week and this month. So essentially, that's one of them. I believe that Shopify is a good company. But it's ran up so much. I mean, from its all-time low, I think it was 112, and now it's sitting at 300. So it's basically 336 last time I checked. I mean, Jesus. I mean, it's ran up that much. I mean, it better blow it away. That's all I gotta say, because it's probably one of the biggest. I'm not saying it's a bubble, but it's definitely up there. You know what I mean? It's definitely, well, I believe it's almost a bubble sitting at where it's at. And really, I mean, especially because it's almost a $40 billion company for a company that's only bringing in $1 billion. and revenue. I mean, I know it has a big opportunity, but it's something, because I believe Shopify. Well, I believe, I'm not saying it's going to crash or anything. I'm not saying Shopify is going to crash, but it might be a pullback, and I think it could put up great numbers, but it just can't be expectations. When expectations, I mean, it's like being a millionaire in 1 year, then you're an idiot if you can't do it. I mean, the expectations were, so high. It's like taking zero to a million. You know what I mean? It's really, really hard to do. You know what I mean? Expectation has to be realistic, and I think that Shopify's ran up a lot. People don't want to miss out on this stock, and it's ran up so much. Actually, in the last 3 years, it's went up over 11 times, which, I mean, Jesus Christ. So essentially, how much can it really go up without taking another? I think, honestly, I mean, it could get hit down to about 250 around there easily if it doesn't blow it away in the earnings, or really have something. If there's anything, it's almost priced in perfection, and I mean, that's just the way with these stocks are. Or I believe it could just kind of sit there for a while like it did in 2018. It just didn't move anywhere. It just kind of ran up and went down, went up. And I think that's what Shopify is. I don't think it's done thing, and I believe looking 3 years in advance, which I kind of buy and hold these great growth companies for a while. And I go hold on for the Shopify regardless of really what happens, unless they get a horrible quarter and they're losing management, just flops. But anyway, the next one is Arista Networks. It's basically a cloud computing play. It's definitely this stock, and it's ran up a lot. It hasn't ran up a whole lot. It's actually almost been flat for the last 2 years. It ran up quite a bit before the other ones, and then it went all the way up to like 320, and then it got hammered all the way down to like 250. So essentially, it's been very kind of volatile stock to own. But I believe, looking forward, I believe one of these earnings report eventually come out good, and it could eventually push the stock up even higher. And I think Arista Network is a great company to own. Um, it's profitable. It's really not overvalued. I mean, I think that slowly, I think it was the guidance that got it last time. So essentially, hopefully, if it beat expectations, a lot of these companies, they go lower guidance, and then they go beat expectations, the stock go up a little bit, then they go lower guidance again. So essentially, it's just how some companies just kind of report that way. Like Amazon, I think they kind of report that way. They just always give low guidance, and then they go beat it pretty easily. It go step it over. It's just it way walk over a hurdle than try to jump over it. Essentially, that's what kind of Wrestle Networks is. So essentially, but keep an eye on it, because you never know 100% what can happen to them. The next company is Square. Square has been, I think, a really, really good company. I like what they do. So essentially, I mean, Square, I could leave a link, talk more about it down in the descriptions. Square is one of these companies. I believe it has a big opportunity in front of it with cashless society. This basically this fintech and stuff like that they're talking about is basically about, which I like it. It was kind of some weird things. I mean, these people saying it's gonna crash, and then this one guy, it was analysis for this bank that said he said he was telling to sell it or hold, and then he lift that and tell you to buy it now, and the stock ran up a little bit before earnings, which I never really like. I hate that. It's probably the biggest red flag that I see when a stock runs up before earnings. I've seen it so many times. It runs up for earnings and then gets hammered. So essentially, and I think Square could be that stock. It's ran up quite a bit. I think it's over 30% in like a month or so, or 3 months or whatever. And it's been kind of flat, but it's just the way it's been trading. So essentially, I believe if it doesn't beat earnings, it could pull back, and it's done that. It hits that around that 83, and then it pulls back. So essentially, that's just how it is. And the next company is GoDaddy. I mean, I believe this company. I mean, think about all the people going online with domains. I mean, this is the company you go for to get domains and all that. They have some, and they're also trying to develop a cloud. So essentially, I think GoDaddy is one of these companies I really don't talk about a whole lot on this channel. But I believe it has a big opportunity in front of it. And the stock has just been actually kind of flat in the last 6 months, it hasn't went anywhere. So essentially, GoDaddy's kind of one of these sleepers that nobody really talks about, but eventually it'll pop if it keeps doing great things. But anyway, that's the review for the week. I go keep make sure to subscribe, like the channel, like the video and everything, and I go keep it posted. I go always try to bring a link, make some comments about it for all the week, and I could probably review this week and then give you my whole perspective on it. But I can make a special report, especially if one goes up a lot or one gets hammered. Hopefully this video is not too long for you guys and you stuck for it, and hopefully you subscribe and everything like that, and keep posted on it, and leave down the comments of what you want to me make a video on. I'm always looking for suggestions. Anyway, thank you, and thank you for watching.